subscribe? Tariq Radio. Watch and subscribe.
You got some strange names there. Professor Better, I think that's your name. What's up, brother?
Yeah. No, I'm listening to you, and you keep talking about white supremacy and things like this. But it's interesting, you brought up Chicago. You know, Chicago has a black mayor, they have a black police chief, and crime is completely out of control there. And you know, it's interesting, you talked about how this is a right wing or a white supremacist talking point. There were 100 people shot in one weekend. 100 people shot in one weekend in Chicago some weekends. And so no, so when you talk about how it's a waste of money to send the National Guard in, okay, this country spends.
Okay, let's slow down. Okay, let's slow down. Let me slow you down. We don't just do a bunch of Fox talking points and just keep babbling. We have a dialogue here. Let's slow down. First of all, let's cover the first thing you said. You start talking about how Chicago has a black mayor, a black this, a black that. That doesn't matter, because the minute one of these black people do something that y'all don't like, the real white people step in, just like with Jussie Smollett. When Jussie Smollett pulled that hoax, which we knew it was a hoax, and Kim Foxx sat up there and let it go, boy, y'all said, no, special prosecutor. Y'all dug a special prosecutor out your ass and overrode what Kim Foxx did. So yeah, you guys control what goes on in Chicago. Miss me with that, it's the blacks. You guys did same thing with Marilyn Mosley up there in Baltimore. When these black folks do something you don't like, boy, y'all pull the real white people out. When our brother Judge Olu Stevens, he made some rulings out there in Kentucky they didn't like. Boy, they pulled the OG white people out and reprimanded him. So these little secret governing bodies of white people, y'all pull them out when the black people who are so-called in charge are doing things that y'all don't like. There's this little secret cabal of white people that y'all pull out that we don't know about. So miss me with that. Chicago is run by black people. And also the 100 people who got shot, who shot them? Because it most likely was some suspected white supremacists on the low. Who shot them? Huh? Come on now. Unmute your microphone, sir. You can unmute your microphone, sir. Okay, I don't know if he's still talking. Professor Better, there you go.
No, you muted me, and the reason you muted me is you're not capable of debating. You can't have an intellectual exchange with me. All you can do is mute my mic.
You're not going to talk over me. You understand? Yes, if you talk over me, I'm going to mute you, because we don't do that. You're not running this. We have something called decorum. All right? This is not the hunky hollering hoedown where you just come in and just start running your mouth unfiltered and unvetted. No, you're going to calm down, take your shoes off, take your dusty little hillbilly socks off, soak your feet, and then sit down and act like you got some sense. You understand that?
Yeah, so I'm a numbers person. Right. I actually I talk facts, not narratives. So here are the facts, okay? Mm-hmm. So all races are equal, but 80% of the kids in the black community in Chicago are growing up in single parent homes. That is the issue. The issue is that there aren't enough fathers raising their kids. Okay. It is not a
white supremacist talking point. That's another white supremacist talking point. When we had 100% of the fathers in the home, we were still dealing with white supremacy. So what's the excuse?
Yeah. And there was no crime rate in the black community in the 50s.
It was, because everything we did was criminalized.
No, the crime rate was low.
Yeah, because everything we did was criminalized. We've always been criminalized, even when all the fathers were in the home. We've always been criminalized. The crime rate has always been higher for black people. Why? Because more things are illegal for black people to do based on race. During Jim Crow, if we drank from a water fountain, that was the wrong one. That was a crime. If we were out at a certain time of night, that was a crime. They said you were loitering. If you walked on a certain side of the street, that was a crime. If you sat on the wrong side of a bus, that was a crime. The crime rate has always been high for black people, and it's high for black people now for the same exact reason. White people get away with all types of shit based on being white, and we get overly punished based on being black. That's why the exoneration rates are so much higher for black people, sir. Now go ahead.
Right. So I see you're just going to keep muting my
Well,
mic because you're not capable of debating.
no, if you say something, we're going to correct it, sir. That's what I'm saying to you. That's all I'm saying. If you say something, we're going to bring truth to power. That's how a debate works. You're not just going to rattle off a whole bunch of canned.
Most of what you said is a lie.
Not a lie, sir. What I said is 100%.
It is a lie. Like, okay, so when you talk about reparations,
Right.
I never owned slaves. You were never a slave. So why the would I pay reparations to you?
Sir,
you were never a slave,
sir,
and I never owned slaves.
sir,
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
not, sir. Why are we giving people money for Indian reservations? I never put anybody on a reservation back in the 1800s, so why are we still paying for that now?
Well, I don't support that. So you're arguing that two wrongs make a right.
It's still being paid.
I don't support that.
It's still being paid, so you don't like supporting Native Americans, they're getting paid. You don't like reparations, and we're going to get paid. See how that works?
Okay, but the whole problem with
paying taxes either, but I got to pay them. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff we don't like, but we got to do. You got to pay those reparations. You understand?
No, I don't, because you as an individual were not hurt by slavery.
Yes, I was.
So why would I pay you reparations?
I was. Yes, I was. The ramification.
No, how? Okay, so give me an example about how you were hurt by slavery. Give me one example.
I'm gonna give you several. Number one, in order to ha 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 hell hunky, we're not gonna do ha ha hunky laughing. Okay, we're not gonna do that. I was harmed by slavery. Because in order to maintain slavery in this country, they had to create a system called white supremacy and an ideology of white supremacy in order to justify it. And part of that ideology was to say that we were inherently inferior and we deserved mistreatment. And that sick mindset is still alive today. And that's an offshoot from slavery, sir. So, yeah, I'm old, and all of us who are foundational black.
No, that's abstract. Give me a tangible example how you were hurt by slavery. And don't give me some stupid abstract bullshit like you're saying. Give me
abstract. We still suffer from the same white supremacist ideology that was created during slavery in order to justify it, sir. Let me get Professor Allen in here. Let me get my
So how was Obama elected president if America's a white supremacist country? Because he ran against white men. He ran against two.
Was a non-foundational black American tether who wasn't from our lineage and had nothing to do with our lineage and didn't do anything to help us, and he was harmless to white supremacy and helped sustain and maintain white supremacy. That's why they elected him. He was a nothing burger. Let me get Professor Allen in here, please. There you go.
Hey, family, I'm gonna be quick. I just
Obama supported the same left-wing policies.
Hold on. What's your name? Thomirio? I can't pronounce your name. Thomorino. Don't talk over the guest. You're not, sir, this is not a monologue. I have another person talking. You don't just jump in and talk over him. You got to have decorum. All right, Professor Allen, go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Tariq, he's showing that high IQ they brag about, but I want to warn y'all about people like him coming in here talking about statistics and the numbers. What we need to start asking these people is numbers according to who? Because he's just saying numbers. He didn't tell me where he gets his stats from. And last thing I'm going to say is 3 types of lies. Lies, goddamn lies, and statistics. And he lying up in here, man. Who are you getting your stats from, sir? Give me a source.
Right. So the census says that 80% of black children in Chicago are growing up in single-parent homes. They're raised by the streets. That is the issue. It is not white supremacy or the dumbass shit Tariq talks about. The problem is
I'm a statistician, sir. Numbers are not that.
The foundation of a community is the family. So if you don't have a father in the household, you don't have a strong family most of the time. And when you don't have a strong family, the streets are raising these kids.
Sir, I don't
All races are equal. But if the fathers are not raising their kids, the
Oh,
families and the communities
is
will
pathetic.
fail.
Like,
And this is why people like you want to
this is
blame
a
white
cliche.
supremacy and you want to blame other people when the problem is in these
He's
specific
angry because
communities.
he knows that
These
we're getting
people are
reparations.
not
This is what this
these
is.
people are not raising their kids in these urban communities. They're not
Sir,
raising
can you
their
name
kids.
the last foundational Black American student to shoot up a school? Can you name one?
Okay, so is most gun violence in urban areas or is it in rural? Do you feel less safe in rural areas or do you feel
Can you
less safe in
name
urban areas?
one Black
Do
gun
you feel less
manufacturer,
safe?
sir? You're
Do
missing
you
the
feel
issue.
less safe on the south side of Chicago? And by the way, I'm from
Well,
Chicago.
tell
I
your
know
people to
these
stop
communities.
making guns.
You don't know these communities. You don't know what you're talking about.
Sir, my
You're
aunt
hiding in a
grew up
little
on
class.
Racine
You're
Avenue on the south
hiding in
side
a
of
little
Chicago. It was the
classroom.
safest place
You're
I've ever
hiding
been
in a
and the
little
cleanest place. I
classroom.
don't know
You
what you
don't know
talk
what
about.
you're talking about. I know these communities. I've spent a lot of time
No,
in
you
them,
haven't.
and I know you're full of
No,
shit.
You're a
I know
liar,
the
sir.
problem in
You're a
these
liar
communities
and you're
is that
emotional.
you're a liar. I said that you asked me my source.
okay, you're not just going to babble incessantly with all of that. Chicago is a war zone. We've been to Chicago, sir. My writing career got started in Chicago. We know Chicago. We go to Chicago. You suspected white supremacists sit up here and curate all of these Black dysfunction videos, and it's like pornography to you. And because you sit up getting off on it every day, that's your world. Your world is sitting up getting off on Black dysfunction pornography, which isn't reality, sir. Because you have to look and seek out that stuff to justify your own anti-Black racism.
I don't have any anti. In fact,
Yes,
one of the main reasons I support Trump is he supports school choice, which would enable poor kids in urban areas, like in the Black.
that school choice, that's for white kids. That's to give federal money so that white kids can go to these segregated schools. That's for white kids. Stop with that whole, yeah, for poor kids.
No, that's a lie. School choice is for poor kids in urban communities,
No, it's not.
so they can go to they can.
Y'all don't give a damn about no poor kid in no urban area. Let's stop with all that. You can't sit up and talk about how these kids in urban areas ain't shit, but you want to give them some school choice. Get the hell out of here. And then you want.
Okay, the Chicago public school system is the second worst in the nation.
And that's
School choice would allow kids to go to the best schools in the country. Number one. Number two,
that will allow white kids to be segregated with the help of the federal government. You're not trying to help those children get better educations. If you did, you would allocate the proper resources to those Black areas and also give reparations, because that would help. And we know
okay.
you're vehemently against reparations, aren't you?
Right, but again, you're lying about the stats. This country spends more money on Black kids than white kids. In fact, and I'll give you the
where and name the program. Name it. Name the program.
Right.
Thank
so
you.
The stat is Department of Education.
No, don't you get to babbling. Name the program where Black kids are getting all this money over whites. Name it.
Okay, so I'm gonna name it. You keep muting my mic. The Department of Education.
The idiot is stalling.
No, you're an idiot, and this is why you're trying to filibuster. Okay, the Department of Education says, and this number has been the same for over a decade. The United States spends roughly $16,000 per Black student and $14,000 per white student, and the reason is most Black kids live in urban areas where there's more money from commercial real estate and property values. So it's not a resource issue. You are lying again. This country spends
named any program. You're just rattling off random numbers without naming the program. What program are you talking about? Come on.
I'm talking about how much money per student the government at the federal and state level spends on kids. I'm talking about.
Why can't you name the program? You keep filibustering. Name what the program is. You're just talking.
I'm talking about programs like special education. I'm talking about general funding for education. The federal government.
Hey, where does it say special education money goes more to Black people than whites? Where
okay. I will. The Department of Education tracks this data. We spend $16,000 per Black student and $14,000 per white student, and the reason is there's more. Right. What do you mean program? I'm talking about what the government spends per student on education.
You're saying stuff and you cannot name the specific program because you're lying, sir. It's called lying.
There's not a program. It's what they spend on education, you clown.
No, you can't sit up here and say there's no program, but there's this mysterious money, but there's no program. Where's the money coming from, and how is it going to black people?
The money, so if you look at the money, I'll stay with Chicago, okay? Most of the money for the education system comes from property taxes and real estate taxes.
What's the name of the program, imbecile?
Yeah, I'm talking about what the government spends per student.
On
it's
the what
education
program?
There's no one program. It's what the education system spends per student.
I've written educational grants. You're lying.
Okay, I'm not. You're lying.
So Marino, you're talking to a teacher. Professor Allen is a goddamn teacher. So who are we going to believe? A person who's a real teacher?
I know the numbers, and I know the numbers better than either of you. You're debating the numbers. You're not debating me.
More than an actual active teacher. So you're telling us you know more than a person who works in the school system.
Okay. I have studied the numbers extensively. I know them. And they're readily available on public websites. The Department of Justice and the Department of Education tracks these numbers. The United States spends $16,000 per black student and $14,000 per white student. And the reason we spend more per student on black kids is there's more money in urban communities like Chicago than there is in rural communities, and white people live more in rural and suburban communities, while the largest black communities are in urban areas where you have more commercial real estate taxes and property values. And so it's not a resource issue. Chicago spends the second most amount of money
with all due
any
respect,
school system.
with everything you said is hard.
I know. Hold on. I'm not done. You're talking. I'm not. I'm
because
right.
It's,
I'm
it's
finishing my
garbage
point.
because
The Chicago
money is
public
allocated
school
to
system
special
spends
programs.
the second most amount of money
And you haven't
of any
named
school
one.
system in the country. Yet they are
Secondly,
the worst
states
education
allocate
system in the
educational
country.
funding along with
It's
the
not a
federal government. So I don't
resource
know what
It's
you're
about
talking about.
accountability.
And I don't think you
and
know what you're
making sure
talking
the
about
money's
either.
better spent. That's why I support school choice.
You're here
It's not
rambling
accountability.
on.
It's not about
talking
resources.
about stuff you don't know about, getting off on some type of trauma porn that doesn't exist.
Talking about? I'm citing the Department of Education.
Know what he's
Okay,
talking about.
I'm citing the Department of Education. What are you citing? What is your source?
I didn't claim.
Yeah, you're stuttering.
You're
What is
making
your
claims,
source?
sir. You're the one making the claims. Don't try to flip
Right.
it around.
My
We're
claim,
asking you what
okay,
program are you
let
talking
me
about?
state my claim again. My claim is the United States of America spends more money per student on black kids than white kids.
Sir,
more money.
education is controlled by the state.
I know. Hold on. Let me finish.
What are you talking
I know.
about?
I'm finishing here. My citation.
Okay. You're just lying. That's it. All you're doing is just lying. You lying loud is still a lie. Lying fast is still a lie. You're just repeating the same lie over and over, sir. What you're saying is a lie. We keep asking for a source. You just keep babbling in circles. So we've established that you're lying. So I don't want to hear you just repeat the same lie over and over again. So don't tell that lie. We've established that you are a liar. That's it. You're just lying.
Okay, I cited the Department of Education. You cited nothing because you're uneducated.
Say that. The Department of Education doesn't say that. No, it doesn't. They're not allocating more money to black people.
Yes, they do. And I'll put the source in the chat too so you can look it up yourself.
Yeah, that ain't true. And you don't have a source.
It is true. And I've seen the numbers. The numbers have been the same for 10 years. But again, the facts, it's just common sense. What I'm saying is
one of the problems with Brown versus the Board of Education. We were trying to get equal money for black schools because black schools have always been underfunded. Always. That's always been a problem. Black school zones have always been underfunded. And when we tried to get more funding, they said, you know what, let's just integrate the schools. We'll just have you go to schools with white people. And that's when all hell broke loose. And the tax bracket went out there to the suburbs with white flight. We don't get the same kind of school resources as white suburban schools. Are you out of your mind to even fix your mouth to say that? Who you think you're talking to? Let's just be
No,
real.
that what you're saying is a lie. So first of all, most white school districts
Everybody
are not
lying but you, right?
most white people do not live in rich white suburbs.
Didn't say
Most
that. Didn't
80
say. Didn't say.
65% of the poor people in the US are white. Most white people live in
According to
I know,
who?
let me finish.
According to what?
Most white people live in
According
community.
to
I know.
what source,
Let me
sir?
finish. I'm responding to this point. Most
I
white
don't respect
I
you
know,
or
no,
believe
I'm
anything you
you're
say.
talking
I want
over
to
me.
know a
I'm responding
source.
to his point. Most white people do not live in rich suburbs like Chicago. Let's talk
According to
about
what?
Chicago and
According to
Chicago area.
you?
And so there's more resources in the urban area. In
According
urban
to
areas like
what
Chicago, they have
source?
commercial real estate, they have property taxes, they have businesses. There's
According to
more
you.
tax
And you
revenue
don't even have
in
a picture of it.
Chicago than there is in most white communities, white suburban and white rural communities. And you talk about segregation. Chicago's one of the most segregated
He's
cities
filibustering,
in
Tariq.
the
I don't know
United
what he's talking
States
about.
right now. School choice is not about segregation. Chicago's segregated right now. What would happen with school choice is you would let kids in the black community go to the best schools in
According
Chicago,
to
like the
who?
Rush University of Chicago
According to what
and other
source?
schools. And so what school choice would do is the exact opposite of what you said. It would
Sir, you don't know
desegregate.
what
No,
you're talking
let
about.
me finish.
Federal, you've
Let
been
me
talking too
finish.
long and you're
You're talking
hurting my
over me.
ears.
What school
Federal
choice would
funding
do
goes to the
is school
state,
choice
and
would
the state
desegregate
decides on how
the
to
school
allocate
system,
funds.
and
So, on
school
your
choice would
premise,
make
you're not
sure
telling the
that
truth.
every kid, regardless of race or socioeconomic status, had the same
He just wants to
opportunity.
hear himself
That's what
talk
school
because
choice.
in real life, nobody talks to him. He's bored, Tariq.
I
Nobody
know.
talks to you. You are a tool who couldn't live outside of your little classroom.
Dude, I don't
You
see a
can't
female
debate.
talking to you, man. You're in here because you're bored.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Find your Xbox and play Call of Duty.
Department of Education for my stat for the fact that the United States of America
I'm sorry.
spends
Find your
more money
Xbox
for
and play
black
Grand
kids
Theft
than white
Auto.
kids. What are you citing? What source? What source are you citing? What source?
I didn't claim to bring up a source, sir. I'm talking about your
So
claim.
you're arguing my point. So what is your source?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. You made a claim
Right.
that
You
federal
don't have a
funding.
source. You're out of your
You're
ass.
claiming that federal funding is allocated to certain groups. Well, I'm telling
I'm
you,
not talking about
federal
federal funding.
education
I'm
funding is
talking about
allocated to the
education funding.
state. You idiot. And
No,
the
you
state
idiots.
makes
Now you're
decisions
calling
on
me
where to
names.
put it.
You're
So,
calling me
what
names
state are you
because I'm
talking about?
obliterating you. I'm obliterating you in this debate. The United States of America spends more money on black kids than white kids in the education system.
Whatever, man.
The Department of
According to
Education
what?
has
According to
cracked the
what?
Department of Education under Obama, under
Tariq,
Trump,
I'm
under
bored with
every
this idiot.
president. That stat has not. You're an idiot, and you're calling me names because you can't exist outside your little
You're
classroom.
acting
I'm
like
not
an
your
idiot. I'm
student.
calling what I
You're an
see.
idiot. You've called me names 3 times because you're a tool who can't debate outside your
Yeah, you're
classroom.
not debating. You're not debating. You're just babbling nonsensical gibberish. You're not owning anybody. You're making a fool out of yourself, sir. You're making white supremacists look bad. Y'all supposed to have a high IQ. You're supposed to have a high IQ. You sound crazy. You're just trying to do I'm white and I say so. And it sounds ridiculous. You're making your the David Dukes of the world. They didn't go all this far with all of their white supremacy for you to let them down like this, sir. You're making Richard Spencer look bad. You're making the Klan look bad. I mean, damn. They did all of that white supremacy for you to come around here babbling like a damn idiot. Are you listening to yourself and talking about you're owning? But I'm owning you, did? No, you're not, sir. Are you own meth? Is it meth? Is it crack? Is it fentanyl? What is it?
It's
Right.
something.
So I made 3 points. Neither one of you have disputed any of them. I
We
said the Department of Education tracks spending. The United States spends more money on black kids than white kids. I have a specific citation, and it's also common sense. There's more tax revenue in urban areas than there are in rural areas. Most white people don't live in rich suburbs. They live in poor rural communities
okay. Let me slow you down. Listen, 'cause these white supremacists try to do a sleight of hand. When they spend more money in an urban area, it'll show that there's more money spent in an urban area, but that's usually for building maintenance, for security, maintenance for older facilities. Those numbers don't translate to more books or better teachers or some type of enriched program for Black students. You understand? And the funding is usually some compensatory funding. They use the term, it's like equity. It's something to supplement the concentrated poverty. These aren't luxuries. Some of these are really band-aids for underfunding. It's not a sign of Black students getting more money. Let's put everything in context here. And then when you talk about these urban schools getting more money, a lot of that goes to some of these illegal immigrants who are in these urban schools. You understand? It ain't Blacks. See, they try to say, well, Blacks are getting all this. You better understand, in Chicago, you got them Latino immigrants who the Democrats bend over for, and a lot of the resources are really for them. We ain't really getting all of these damn benefits. So you watch this little sleight of hand they try to pull when there's some money that's given to an urban area, and then they try to make it seem like urban means Black automatically. All right.
And let me add a level to
No,
that,
no,
Tariq.
no. So I saw. I didn't
Hold
cite
on, hold on.
urban
Let
versus
me
rural.
add
No, no.
a
He
level
made a
to it. Stop talking over me. The level to that, and I'm gonna be real quick, is a lot of the money that goes to urban schools for renewal and for fixing the school up goes to subcontractors and vendors, corporations that are not owned by Black people. So it ends up going back into his hands.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Right.
indeed.
But so the data I cited is not specific just to urban rural, it's specific to race. The Department of Education, when Obama, who is Black, was president, clearly stated, and the numbers have been the same for well over 50 years, because there's more revenue in urban areas. There's more property revenue, there's more commercial real estate revenue, there's more revenue. The United
This
States
dude
is,
just said it's more
I
commercial
know,
real
the
estate
United States
revenue.
spending more money on Black kids than white kids on a per capita basis for 50 years. The reason why there's an achievement gap in the Black and white community, even though all
Oh, I want
races
to hear
are
this.
equal,
I want to hear
is that
this.
almost 80%, and I made this stat before, in urban areas, and it's the same in many major cities, Philadelphia, Chicago, in urban areas, almost 80% of kids in the Black community are growing up in single parent homes below the poverty
He
level.
does not know what he's talking about.
That's what the numbers say.
I don't know why we're listening to
I'm
this.
citing numbers. What are you citing?
Yeah.
You're citing nothing. You're talking out of your ass. That's all you're doing. I'm citing the Department of Education. I'm
Sir.
citing the census.
Okay.
I'm citing the data. You're supposedly a.
No, you're not. You're just saying stuff, sir. You're just saying stuff. You're just saying stuff, sir. You just saying a bunch of gibberish and saying numbers is just not accurate because you can't give a source. You're lying about the Department of Education talking about they're giving more money to Blacks. That's not true. And you keep going back to that old white supremacist talking point about fatherlessness. The CDC said Black fathers are the most active in the lives of children, sir. That's what the CDC says. So that whole played out lie of the fatherlessness thing, that's the problem and not white supremacy, that's not true. We still live under a system of white supremacy, whether the father is in the home or not.
Okay, but again, I'm citing the census.
And I'm
The census says 80% of Black kids in cities like Philadelphia and Chicago are growing up without a father. Now you're citing the CDC. That's not. Those are. It's a politicized CDC.
100% of Black Americans are dealing with white supremacy. So why don't we deal with white supremacy? 100% of us are dealing with white supremacy, sir.
Okay. And the Asian community is wealthier than the white community. So when you say,
no, you guys allow them to have whatever resources they have and then take it away from them whenever you want to take it away from them. You put these people in damn concentration camps over here. Don't act like they're running the show. You can control them and smack them around anytime you feel like it, sir. So don't play that game. You know, if they get out of line, you put them in check. That's why they had to have a special crime bill for them, because when that COVID thing popped off, y'all let them know where they stood on the hierarchy. So don't play that game, sir. We
No, the reason the Asian community is the wealthiest community in the U.S. is because they're the most educated. Wealth correlates with education, not race. And if you take two people with college degrees, one is white, one
no. The white supremacists control the money. They control all the money, even if they're educated or not. You got some of the dumbest hillbillies in the country over here, but they still have more resources than some of the most highly educated black people, sir. That's because of white supremacy. And studies have said that white high school dropouts will earn more than a black person with a damn college degree. Many studies have said that, and that's because of white
no.
supremacy. Yes, yes.
There's no study showing that two people with the same level of education, one of them who's black, is likely to make less money. And most corporations would rather hire people who are from underrepresented minority groups who.
Not only that, go look up a study. There are studies showing that white corporations, when they see a person who has a black name, they throw the application away in many cases, sir. There have been several studies of that. Go look that up right now. Even if they think it's a black person applying, they most likely, in many cases, would throw the damn application away and wouldn't even look at the person or even get the person to come on in to talk to them, sir. Let's not play that game. We live in a system of white supremacy, sir. We're living.
No. So it's easier to get into the top colleges in America, like Harvard, if you're black. Most corporations would rather hire people who are black because they want to promote diversity. They use the term social justice. We just elected a black president twice who was running against a white man both times. The wealthiest community.
Because he was a Kenyan tether who was not of this lineage, and I already said he was non-threatening. You only had him as president under the understanding that he would not do a damn thing for black society and not punish any white people. So yeah, of course you're going to have that.
No, but you're missing my point. I'm saying America elected Obama, and they did. Well, when Obama was
you elected a damn eunuch who can't do nothing and won't do nothing and who's going to do your bidding. Yeah, that was the greatest thing you can do. Get somebody who was not going to do anything to help black people. Yeah, you're going to elect him. That's not a
no. Again,
so your lack of racism that confirms your racism.
No, because when Obama was elected, he ran against a white man. He wasn't running against some progressive. And so Obama won Obama didn't just win the electoral college, he won the popular vote. Right. So the fact
realized and the understanding was Obama was not going to do anything to help black people. So yes, of course you're going to elect him. He's not going to disrupt power from white supremacy. What?
Hey, so hold on. Let me
to disrupt power of white supremacy. What did he do?
Okay. Wait, so I'm talking about Obama getting elected, not what he did. It's not easy to change things in the United States. That's not the way the system's set up. But
how did he disrupt white power? Go. How did he disrupt any white power?
That's not the job of the president. The job of the president is to do what's best for all of the country. It's not to favor one group over another. But
he didn't do anything to make things equitable. He kept the white power structure in place. And that's non-justice, to have one group have all the power and wealth and control. That's non-justice. So he didn't do anything to disrupt that non-justice. And electing him was a nothing burger. That just solidified white supremacy, right?
No, but the problem with your argument is that Republicans, even if I accept your premise, which I don't, Republicans took the House in 2010. So Obama never had the opportunity to do the things for the black community that you claim he would do because Obama never had.
What stopped him? What stopped him?
Republicans took the House in 2010. That was the Tea Party. So Obama, and again, in the Senate, you need 60 votes. You need 60 votes to break the filibuster. So, and again, the question I have for you is, if Obama was such a non-threatening person, he wasn't going to do anything for the black community, why did 90% of the black community vote for Obama if he didn't care about black people? Why is that?
Because we didn't know. I voted for him twice.
You voted for him twice, not just once.
Hey, I voted for his ass twice. I didn't know he was going to be that big of a nothing burger. He fooled a lot of us.
Right, but again, Republicans, and I don't accept your premise, but Obama didn't have.
History accepts my premise. History accepts the facts. I just stated a fact. He didn't do shit for black people. And
But
that's what you like.
Obama did not
That's
control
why you
Congress.
allowed him to become president. That's why you allowed him. So yeah, we learned from that though. That was a big wake up call. We ain't falling for that shit again. That's why we didn't let Kamala get in there. That's why the delineation movement is so heavy right now. We knew not to fall for that no more. So yeah, we learned from that. All right?
Yeah, right, but again, Obama never had control of Congress after
No,
2010. But the other problem with your argument is if you go off the numbers, again, the numbers, black home ownership numbers were at record highs with the exception of the housing bubble numbers when Trump was president between 2016 and 2020. And so when you say that Trump is this white supremacist and whatnot, Trump supports school choice. He secured the border to keep illegal immigrants out of communities, including the black community. And Trump's economic policies led not just to record low unemployment, but they also led to record home ownership numbers in the black community, taking out the bullshit housing bubble numbers. And so when you say that Donald Trump is a white supremacist, you can't name one policy that Donald Trump has supported in his 5 years as president that favored whites over blacks. You can't name one.
well, what Donald Trump is doing now, this whole thing with National Guards like up in DC, doing these little harassment optics where they're messing with black folks, I can't co-sign that. I don't like that at all because that's a time wasting nothing burger. So yeah, I don't accept that at all. Up until that point, Donald Trump really didn't do anything to harm black people, but he pulled that move because really I think that's part of the Epstein thing. They're trying to create a smoke screen. And again, that whole school choice nonsense, that's a whole and thank you for the call. I'm gonna just because I don't want to hear him babble. Okay, thank you. That's enough from him. But because all he's going to do is babble a whole bunch of nonsensical false stats. I just want to school the family on the whole school choice con game. That was born out of the resistance to integration. See, that modern school choice stuff, that goes back to when in the 60s when white families they look for ways to avoid sending their kids to the newly desegregated schools after that Brown versus the Board of Education. So they had these private segregation academies and voucher systems that were set up to funnel these white kids into majority white spaces while they were starving out these integrated public schools. And that school choice stuff, see, they want to drain money from the urban areas. See, they talk about, yeah, oh, this is going to be for poor kids. This is going to be for poor kids. See, these vouchers and this charter expansion, that's going to redirect public funding away from these urban, quote unquote, neighborhood schools, which are predominantly black. You see, so that creates this two-tiered system. So it'll be a better resource choice school, quote unquote, while these traditional public schools are going to be left underfunded. You see? So it creates this racial economic sorting out. See, the parents with resources, transportation time, networks, and all that, they're going to be able to navigate the school choice systems. And, this is going to result in white and wealthier families clustering certain choice schools while black students are left concentrated in these underfunded schools. Mhm. And here's the thing, accountability and admissions, that can be manipulated. You see, these charter and these voucher schools, they can set up these little barriers. They can have selective admissions. They have these strict discipline codes. You know, they'll lack services with kids who might have disabilities. So they have these little barriers that they can push at these little charter schools that you can't do at a public school. You know what I'm saying? Watch the con game. So they sit up and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to have school choice in these charter schools, and it's going to be for poor kids or whatever." And then when the black kids show up, it's going to be like, "Well, you know what? We got a rule for braids. You can't have braids in this school. It's not race. It's about hairstyles." And then they start pulling that bullshit. So just understand how these white supremacists get down. Just understand when they start talking about black folks ain't shit, but we want to help you with these schools, with school choice. That's going to help you too. Con game. It's all a big old con game. And again, that white supremacist suspect will sit up here and babble incessantly about these nonsensical stats. Yeah, I'm all about numbers. He just keep yelling out numbers without giving a real source and then lying about the source. That's that whole Ben Shapiro thing. You think, okay, well, numbers are about facts. Okay, you just lying about numbers. You just lying. All right. Let's get She Love in here. She Love. What do you love, She?
Hey, Tariq. I just wanted to come up here and talk about what he was saying with the budget and $16,000 per black student. Working in the school system in Chicago myself as an admin for the board, what I know that goes on is they over extenuate the budget, right? And so he was saying, let's just $16,000 per student. The reason why they do that for these people is because they underpay the teachers that are there, so they'll leave. So every year you have a shortage of teachers, which gives them the qualifications to now go and source teachers from anywhere. And generally, it's from the next couple of states over, from Indiana, Wisconsin, anywhere. And they will pay these teachers, right, to come, and they will give them a stipend also every week with their check.
Mm,
And so this is what they use to grift. If the Chicago County, if the Chicago um, gives money to the schools, an extra $3 million, they grift that shit away on white teachers, so they don't bust white students in. They bust white teachers in and give them the money that way.
yeah.
And they still underdeserve the children. They still underteach. And then they go ahead and do all of these recommendations for IEPs. So that also costs money. So when they bring them in and test them and then turn around and be like, well, no, we'll put them on a 504. This is discipline now. These are so many different ways. If the black schools get more money, that's just qualifications for them to go ahead and grift it. None of it goes back to the kids because we can see with the grades, we can see with what's going on. So the more money they throw at it is the more reason. That's why he keep coming in talking numbers, 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 but he ain't telling you how that money is being used. It's being used on teachers, like you said, it's being used on security, right? All of these things they bring in, and it goes right back to those white people
Yes.
while we still be underserved. I just wanted to say that shit because he wanted to scream and loud. I know he live in Evergreen Park or somewhere over there in the white part of society in Chicago talking all of that shit. Why you know the numbers for the black students and what the have you done to increase the efficiency of the numbers that you know, other than to come on this stage and spit this shit out like we doing something wrong? No, you're a part of the damn grift. He just busted himself out. That's why he know those numbers. That's why he came on here to say that shit. But that's all I wanted to say.
There you go. Thank you so much, beloved. I appreciate you. Yeah, see, you got to put everything in perspectives. See, these white supremacists will say stuff and put it all out of the wrong context. Let's get Robbie Blue in the building. Brother Robbie.
Good morning, brother Tariq. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir. How are you, sir?
Yeah, man. You have the patience of a saint, and I understand what you're doing, and I appreciate what the previous sister said because that's all I was going to say when that gentleman was, you know, on stage. If I was able to engage with them, is they're disingenuous about so many things. If he wants to talk about per capita, 98% of them get federal contracts. When these funds are maldistributed, it ends up benefiting them, playing this little game that, they're LGBTQ, they're a woman, they got an elbow. I'm not going to use the what fuck shoot. They can play with. It's like they have all of these different um they have all of these different excuses that they could use, and I'm so angry right now, but I'm trying to calm myself down
Yeah.
because Look, it's 2025 and 68% of them don't have a college degree.
Mm,
So why is that? At least like us, we've had to work hard and scrape to get what we have. Like you have Professor Alon up here. He's a professor. I bet you that idiot talking to him didn't even try to go to school.
mm,
So here they are, whether it's school choice, whatever, they maldistribute resources. What it really boils down to, Tariq, is they want to live in a white country, like you say, where it's a welfare system where they don't have to have a college degree and they can just float by being mediocre. But see, the writing is on the wall with AI and these elites. They don't really see white privilege is expensive. So that's why they have to come here, and this is like a pressure release valve. And I like it because they're letting us know what time it is. I'm like, they must really be feeling it now. We know how to survive.
yeah.
We've been artificially held down and sabotaged. So there's no place for us to go but up.
Mm,
Nothing's been given to us. But when you have been allowed to be mediocre, and now they're starting, uh, to hold them accountable, and they're not going to necessarily get all those set asides that they usually have been getting.
mhm,
Now they want to keep talking all that per capita crap. You know what I'm saying? You have the patience of a saint. I appreciate you allowing me to speak. Man, that's the definition of a devil right there.
mhm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, man.
That's it. That's it.
Thank you so much, brother. Yeah, man. I'm just showing you how these hostile, nonsensical, suspected white supremacists get out, man. Brother McCall, hop on in, please.
Great Minister of Code. How art thou?
So good, Brother McCall. How are you, sir?
Excellent, excellent. Just living a dream and winning. Okay. That Minister of Numbers, I'm pretty sure he's still listening. You mind if I go through some numbers real
Oh, yeah,
quick regarding reparations?
brother.
Beautiful. Okay. And this is for the those in the room who really love numbers. 246 years of slavery. It's documented. Those numbers aren't refuted. Equals essentially 3,000 months, 90,000 working days. We're going into perspective. 2.5 million hours of free forced labor. You multiply that by approximately 10 million Black people, foundationals, who lived and died in slavery in America. That equals 25 trillion hours of forced labor,
Mm,
totaling approximately 300 to 600 trillion USD. Right?
mm-hmm.
Okay, let's throw in the 400,000 acres that was given to us upon emancipation. This beautiful beachfront property, right? You're talking 625 square miles, approximately. That's almost the size of Houston, right? A conservative average, if you're counting what it's worth today, is approximately 250,000 per acre, right? 400,000 acres times 250,000 USD, that's $160 billion. That's generational wealth
Yep.
taken from us. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about this, 25 trillion hours of forced labor. That totals 250,000 kilowatts of raw power, human power. That means that each individual was essentially a 100-watt machine. And that's not counting the skilled architectural, agriculturalists or the artisans or the craftsmen. Essentially, we were the engine of the economy.
Mm,
The numbers show that. And I'll land with this. 50,000 US patents, innovation. That's IP. That's worth trillions of dollars today. Some of it owned by Edison. Some of it is owned by Bell. Where did all that go?
mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So naturally, with that kind of startup capital, you're going to create the greatest nation of the modern era. And I'll land with that. Thank you, dear brother.
My brother,
Appreciate you. Love you.
appreciate you. Brother Average in the building.
Oh wow, yes sir. Didn't even hear it click on. First of all, I hope you're doing well.
I am.
And thank you for letting me speak. Also, too, brother McCall. That dude came on real hot. The Caucasoid came on real hot. A lot of attitude, a lot of anger, a lot of angst. It had that, that Nick Fuentes. These are the most whiniest
Oh yeah.
guys in all of
Oh,
in all of humanity. You would think that controlling much of the world's money, having an arsenal of weapons, and just being able to write policy and basically decide the fate of the planet, you would be content with that. But they act like they're just losing and they complain about every single thing when you can make all the changes in the world to make things better for yourself. And of course, a lot of this comes from the fact that a lot of them now they're dying off. Their women really don't want to be with them. But more than anything else, I think he's confusing a very particular stat because a lot of them use the whole fatherlessness, and what they do is they confuse it with unmarried. Unmarried and fatherlessness, two different things. So most black children actually grow up with their fathers in the home. Now, whether or not the mother and father are married, that's a whole different stat and can be classified. But they think that unmarried is fatherlessness, and that's just not the case. Also, too, black fathers, whether we're living in the home or not, by both metrics, they've done studies on this. We are the most involved. I'm saying this as a married man, all my children planned, all my children under one roof, but I have friends, all my friends involved fathers, whether they're living with the mother of the child or not. And so, and then also too, he kept on, you would call him out for the specifics of the stats that he was citing. And the problem was he couldn't talk about how much of that dollar was going directly to the education of the child. How much of this is benefiting Black American children? You can't say that. Citing real estate prices, that's very easy because he kept on undermining his own point, which is, yeah, urban real estate is higher, great, but how does that equate to effectivity towards the child being
mhm.
educated? And then also, for some reason, people who cite per capita, he didn't understand per capita when he talked about Asian wealth. Asians are the wealthiest. No, they have more wealth than you possibly per capita, but you are the wealthiest by far, having more wealth in America, having more wealth on the planet than any other
Mhm.
race. So I land my plane there, but he was very disingenuous and just couldn't really debate and undermined himself with his emotion and all of that. He came apart.
Real talk. Thank you so much.
Microphone check.